Roll.
Hi viewers, how are you doing? I hope you all are doing great. Well, I'm Sudha Kuluru from ProXel, and I'm back again with our video series, Adding Value and Impacting Lives, where we invite renowned guests, special people with subject area of expertise who can bring in a lot of suggestions and give us a lot of support, share ideas, as well as help us all deal with this dreadful and difficult times in the lockdown. Speaking of a special guest, or rather I should say a renowned guest, now this person is amazing and I'm really proud and happy to introduce him to all of you. He's none other than RAVI MANTHA. Welcome to the video series, Ravi. Hi.
Thank you very much, Sudha. Very happy to be here. Hello, viewers, and thank you to Sudha and thank you to ProXel for having me here.
That's wonderful. Nice to have you here. It's a pleasure. Let me just tell you a little bit about Ravi. There's a lot to talk about him, but I'm just going to keep it very, brief. To begin with, he's a health guru, and he's a holistic healer and a wellness coach. Now, he's an author of these two amazing books, which I feel you must read. The first one being all about bacteria. Well, he talks about the microbial ecosystem. And the second book is my favorite, and it's all about diet, natural food, and fiber, and it's called The Baby Elephant. You must read this, viewers. It's amazing. Now, in addition to this, he's also an architect of a comprehensive framework of health, which is called as the 7-layer therapy. Now, he takes us deep and dives us into the actual framework of 7 different layers of how we can take care not only of things around us, but what's happening inside us, right? On that note, another warm welcome again, Ravi, to this program. And it's amazing to have you here. To begin with, since you are the designer, the architect, and the follower of the 7-layer of health therapy, right? Could you just briefly tell us, what is it all about?
Certainly. When I trained as a holistic healer, the most basic question in my mind was, how do you actually cure the illness? Yeah. So I'm not really about treating symptoms. I'm about solving the problem. How and why do you have this health issue, and how do we get rid of it?
Right.
So in order to understand that, we have to see where the problem is coming from, right? Because the problem could be nutrition, the problem could be exercise, it could be toxins, it can be something else, a bacterial imbalance. So what we needed essentially was a framework to actually understand what are the various layers that impact your health. And that's literally the most important thing, because if you don't treat the source of the problem, you're just treating symptoms, which means that the problem is not going to go away.
Right.
Right. So 7-layer therapy is nothing but a framework where I try to capture in a comprehensive manner all the different things, all the different layers in health. And the layers are actually quite easy to understand once I just state them. The first layer is chemical, which is basically all the nutrition, food that you eat, the pharmaceutical drugs that you take, and also the environmental toxins that are around us all the time. The second layer is biological, which is the microbes that make up our body. 90% of the cells that make up our human ecosystem are actually bacteria cells. Only 10% are the cells that make up our human body. So we are actually like a living, walking, breathing pond. We're 70% water and 90% bacteria. So bacteria have a huge impact on our health. And that's the biological layer. Okay. The third layer is mechanical, which is exercise, muscle strengthening, and then the cardio portions primarily. And this relies on something called the hormetic effect, which is a scientifically proven concept where when you stress your muscle to the point of failure, it becomes stronger. And that's seen in many, many different features in the human body, and that's the mechanical layer in health. The fourth layer is electrical. And the electrical layer, you can think of it as, it's literally the software by which the brain controls the body. So if your brain is like a cloud computer and your body is the hardware, there is actually a layer of software that controls how the brain manipulates and uses the body. So for me to move my hand, there is some software involved. And if you understand that, you understand what the electrical layer is in health.
Okay.
The fifth layer is emotional. And we all know how important emotions are to our overall health and well-being. And the fifth layer talks about that. The sixth layer is spiritual, which has to do with our place in this universe. And we are all conditioned, depending on our backgrounds, upbringing, and our religious programming, as to what our spiritual layer is. And this is just a more scientific or a science-based way of looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
And the last layer in health is what I call the secret layer or the hidden layer. And that has to literally do with how we perceive our subjective reality. What is the operating system in our mind that is helping us deal with our subjective reality? That's literally the hidden and secret layers. So these are the 7 layers which have a huge impact on health, both individually and collectively. So it's very important from a problem solving or a health improvement standpoint, but also from a preventive health standpoint, to be proactive and to look after all these 7 layers in health so that you have a really high quality of life and you're mostly free from disease. And if you happen to get disease, you have the resilience in your body to heal quickly.
Amazing, just unbelievable and amazing, profound amount of information, I would say, Ravi. And for the fact that the dreadful virus has been affecting us and its chaos and illness everywhere around us, I think this amount of information is certainly very useful and necessary for each one of us, if not the details, but to understand the basic aspect of it and be well educated about it. So on that aspect, could you please share a few tips on what people can actually do in order to keep these 7 layers balanced out and active in this situation?
Certainly. Look, I mean, I think the most important thing right now is that most people are actually on edge because we have never really dealt with a situation like this, where we have this total loss of control over our work, even our ability to leave the house.
Yeah.
And we have this fear yet fascination about this virus. What is it going to do? How is it going to impact us?
True.
We just don't know what to do. And there is a tendency in this situation for our worst emotions to come out at a time like this. I see people are picking fights with friends on WhatsApp groups, blaming this person or that group and whatnot. So there's a lot of negative emotions that are potentially coming out in this situation, primarily driven by this loss of control. We've never seen anything like this in our lives. And what I would strongly advise people to do is to just change this narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Flip it over into positivity. Think of this as a time for reflection, a time for connection with your loved ones around you, even on video calls if they're not around you. This is the time to go back to the basics, right? And actually, I'm just going to talk about one of the basics, which is literally the fundamental basic, which is breathing. So let me show you a very simple breathing exercise. Right?
Sure,
take your left hand,
mm-hmm.
Take your left hand and put it on your heart, and take your right hand and put it on your abdomen, and just take a deep breath. Now, I want each of you to look at which hand actually rose when you did that, when you took that deep breath. And in 9 out of 10 cases, it's going to be the left hand.
Yeah.
In other words, most people are doing something called thoracic breathing, where they're breathing from up here.
True.
The actual real way to breathe is from the abdomen, from down below. So when you take a deep breath, it's your abdomen that should be rising up, which means that you're breathing deep and into your diaphragm. And this is a very, very simple thing, because nobody actually teaches you how to breathe. You just come out of your mother's womb and you start breathing automatically. And most of us get it wrong. Right. And this is why the fundamental principle within yoga is breathing, right? And within that, the most basic exercise is to learn how to breathe through your diaphragm and your stomach, and not from the thoracic cavity. So when you do this, what happens is, okay, let me use an analogy now. There are 2 ways to ride a horse, right? The first way is you get on top of the horse, you stand on top of the saddle, one leg in the air, arms everywhere, and you try to ride the horse. Right. The other way is sit properly on the saddle, and you let you tune your body in harmony with the horse, and you're riding gently up and down.
Right.
And now you can see you will get to the destination with both techniques.
Yes.
But you know which one is going to be the latter technique is going to be make you relaxed. You're going to be happy. You're going to be comfortable, and you're going to get there. In the former technique, when you're on top of the horse, standing like with your arms up in the air, you're going to be super stressed when you get to the other end. This is the same thing. You can think of thoracic breathing is as standing on a horse, and diaphragm breathing as a very relaxed approach to life. This is such a fundamental thing because you see a couple of things. The oxygenation in your blood is significantly greater when you're doing stomach breathing. Right. Also, the CO2 level, by the way, CO2 is a vasodilator. So when you have more CO2 in the lungs, it actually opens up your lung capillaries and helps you breathe better, to take in the oxygen better. So breathing is crucial. Stomach breathing is especially important, particularly when we're talking about a virus whose main impact is on the lungs. So, I would encourage everyone to, to breathe, to learn how to breathe properly as a step one. And this will be your, it's going to change a lot of things. It's not just about COVID prevention. It's about your approach to life itself, because you're going to be much more relaxed. You'll be much less stressed, and you'll be much more efficient at using your body and your lungs. And that will have knock-on effects on everything that you do, whether in your workplace, in your relationships, or at home.
Yes. True, very true. That was amazing amount of information, beautifully illustrated with the example of the horse. And I could actually visualize the difference. Even though we are living, or rather managing to live, we are not doing it the right way. And this example, along with the detailed explanation, helps us understand we're doing things, but not the right way. So we need to correct and start working on things all over again, so that we have a healthier and a longer life. Apart from the situation which is there, it just helps us live longer and better. Amazing. Thank you so much for that, sharing that information, Ravi. Now, knowing that diet plays a very important aspect in our living our existence and health and etc. And being an author of this beautiful book, Baby Elephant, where you're talking so much in depth about diet, fiber, natural food. We have food all across us. It's still, kids want to run to the fast food center. Unfortunately, even that is closed now. It's just causing a lot of chaos and anxiety for everyone. But the fact that, what would be the right diet or the best diet in order to build our resistance and immunity at this point of time?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. Look, the best food is food that comes out of a plant, not out of a factory.
Right.
This is actually the time to see where the food you eat is coming from. Look around, go to the kitchen, look carefully. Go back to the basics. Which are the fruits and the vegetables that you're preparing fresh, right? You have the time now to pay some attention to these things.
Right.
Increase the variety of grains in your diet, right? If you're just eating one type of grain, like plain rice, maybe this is a time to explore millets. It's a time to explore other types of grains, lentils, different types of lentils, and increase the amount of fiber that you consume. The other thing is, this is also a great opportunity for you to look at your eating habits in terms of what time do you eat, how many meals do you eat. In my case, I only eat 2 meals a day, and I follow something called a 16-8 eating plan, which means that 16 hours of the day I don't eat anything, and 8 hours a day is when I eat. So I compress my eating into an 8-hour period in order to give my digestive system a 16-hour break. And this is shown to be probably the best approach to eating, given the available evidence in science. And this is something also, by the way, that comes from our ancient scriptures, our Ayurveda and our ancient ways of living. Is this concept of intermittent fasting, which has now gone to the West, become scientifically validated, and now it's come back to us, and that's really a good thing. So the more you compress your eating window as we get older, the better it is for you. It's perfectly fine for children to eat 3 or 4 meals a day. That's absolutely a good thing, because they're growing, they have growth hormone, and they have brains are developing, and that's a good thing. But I'm talking about adults, particularly people over the age of 35. If you can start following this intermittent fasting as your principle and compress your meals to perhaps 2 a day, that's really going to be.
That's wonderful. That's great bit of information to know, Ravi. The fact that, I mean, many people assume that the more you eat, the healthier you become because you have more nutrients, more vitamins and things. So I guess it's time to revisit the kitchen and check out what we have and what best we can make out of it, having the best of the, healthy meal, which can be prepared in your kitchen by yourself. Very simple, very basic, and yet very refreshing, light on you, and long lasting, right? Okay. Now, we've discussed a lot about food and how we can actually keep ourselves physically fit with the breathing techniques and all. How about the overall mind and the body? How can we make a balance in both these aspects, especially with a lot of chaos and people getting overwhelmed with too much of information on the media? They're getting paranoid, or else they're going into depression. There is an emotional breakdown, and we see domestic violence increasing and people becoming very insecure, and all these kind of negative impacts. So what would you suggest to have a balanced state of mind and body?
I think we should go back to the savannah. Why did the human body evolve in the way that we have evolved?
Okay.
And this goes back. It actually, it's an amazing but true story. The fastest animal on land, over 100 meters, we all know is a cheetah, right? But the fastest mammal on land over any distance, over 25, 30 miles, meaning about 50 kilometers or longer, is actually a human being. And this is something that will come as a surprise to most of us who probably never have even walked 10 kilometers, let alone run 50.
Yeah.
But the human body evolved for distance running, for endurance. So there is no other land mammal that can outrun a human being over 50 kilometers or longer, including a horse. Horse is the second best. So let us use our physiology, right, to work for us instead of working against us. So what I'm trying to tell you all is running is by far your best exercise in this kind of an environment. Number one, it consumes a significant amount of time. So you're on your own, you're out there for 30 to 60 minutes, hopefully, at least every other day. The second thing is that cardio exercise is the only thing that has been found to be neurogenetic. In other words, it actually builds brain cells when you're working out and in the aftermath of a workout. So cardio exercise is very, very important for neurogenesis. The third thing is the endorphins, the natural endorphins that are released by your brain will give you this incredible feel-good factor. And cardio exercise is known to improve everything from heart health to to your thyroid, to your metabolic syndrome, to your blood pressure, to literally every health measure. So people who are able to go out for a run in this time are the ones who are going to be the healthiest. I mean, I'll just straight up tell you that, because I'm also a big fan of strength training, but these are the times when most gyms are closed and most of us don't have access to heavy equipment at home. Right. But we should be able to get out and go for a walk, a brisk walk. And if you can, step it up and learn how to run. It doesn't take much at all. You can just watch a couple of videos on YouTube and learn a proper technique and go running. Start slow. If you have preconditions, check with your doctor, of course, but start slow, start with a half a kilometer run, and then every day you step it up until you hit that 5 kilometer plus mark when it's really, really beneficial for you. So I'm a huge, huge fan of running. I've started doing it myself in the last few days, and it's had a huge impact because I come back from the run and I'm just calm like the Buddha for the rest of the day and for the next day as well.
Yes. Wait, that's amazing, Ravi. Thanks for sharing so much of valuable information and educating us, in fact, what can be done best in the limited resources that we have. And the fact that while everything outside is closed, we can still get that cardiac exercise and workout, release those endorphins, even staying in your house, within your comfort zone and your place. That's wonderful. Now, moving on, could you please suggest certain things like, as tips and suggestions for being very positive and productive during this time in general?
Look, a lot of times I'm a huge fan of, working, um, I mean, I have both men and women clients, but I tend to work a lot with women patients, women clients. But today I'm going to flip that on its head. I'm going to talk directly to the men.
Okay.
Now that we have the time at home, right? Obviously, the one thing that comes to us is, why not use some of it to cook more natural food at home? But I want to talk to the men here. Guys, let me tell you, the workload on the women in your home has increased because most of the helpers and maids are gone. And everyone is home. So the women who are the nurturers in our households are taking the brunt of the heavy workload. Let's be serious. Let's be clear about this. I'm asking you, the men in the household, to really step up to the plate now. Make cooking, cutting vegetables, eating, cleaning up, make it a family pastime where you all reconnect with each other. Get the kids involved as well, right? This is not the time for you to be sitting and watching TV and letting your spouse handle all the workload. Step in and help out. You'll actually discover amazing things. How cleaning, washing dishes is like a meditative practice. It's really amazing.
Absolutely.
Now, I also want to tell you one more serious thing as a man. The COVID research that is coming out is showing something a little disturbing, which is that men are more susceptible to it in terms of the fatality rate.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently there is one other reason why that is the case. And that has to do with the level of hemoglobin or iron in your blood. Now, if you've seen my book, All About Bacteria, which came out in 2012, I've long been a fan of reducing the level of hemoglobin if you're a man. Because women don't have this problem because they menstruate and men don't. So our levels of hemoglobin tend to be higher. And hemoglobin has a lot of involvement in many, many diseases, including heart disease. But the latest science from the COVID research facilities show that people with higher hemoglobin levels are more susceptible to developing the secondary and more critically ill phase of the illness, which is when the lungs collapse. So the best thing you can do, and I've been advocating this for many, many years now, for 25 years, I've been an advocate of donating blood. In fact, I just went, an hour ago and donated blood at the Chiranjeevi Blood Bank here in Hyderabad in Jubilee Hills. And today was my 91st blood donation in 25 years. I'm very proud to say that I've been a regular donor for the last 25 years, every 3 months, and I'm close to hitting 100. So we're doing it for 2 reasons, right? Right now, right this moment, the hospitals, the blood banks are running low on blood because of the lockdown, obviously. So all the voluntary blood donors are not going in. So find a way, go to the checkpoint, go around noon, ask the police if you can go to the blood bank, and because you're going for a voluntary blood donation, they will let you through. Go there. If you're able, especially if you have negative blood, as in a negative blood group, and if you're fit and able, do the world a favor, and there is a very decent chance you're also lowering your chance of severe illness with COVID, and you'll be saving somebody else's life. So I strongly recommend that. That's the one thing you can do, right? You're sitting around at home, and it's a day out. Go to the blood bank and donate a pint of blood, and come back, and you'll do the world and yourself a favor.
Amazing. I am totally, impressed and amazed the kind of suggestions and tips that you've been giving. And the fact that guys need to really look into this. This is meant for all the guys. I hope they've made the guy viewers made a note of it, and the women are going to love you for this, for sure. Yes.
Thank you so much to ProXel for having me on this episode.
Thank you so much, Ravi. It's been a pleasure, and we really appreciate the time that you have given to us in sharing such deep insights, as well as profound thoughts, suggestions, opinions, and I'm sure they're going to add a lot of value to our viewers, and also it's going to impact them in a very big and a huge positive way. And we all hope and pray that we stay positive, productive, and get a lot of motivation, encouragement, and inspire each other to just drag us through this hard, difficult times of uncertainty, and just pray for everything to be good. Thank you so much for your time again, Ravi. Thank you for being on our program. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudha. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.